Minister Jitendra Singh. It is, of course, a very important day today, sir, in terms of the journey of Chandrayaan. The propulsion module has been separated from the Vikram lander. How is this a particularly significant event in terms of the overall mission?
Thank you, Vishnu. Thank you for asking that. Of course, every Indian feels proud of this, but yes, you rightly put it. I think what is exclusive from my point of view is that while we look up to Chandrayaan mission with huge amount of excitement, enthusiasm, inquisitiveness, curiosity, but it is not only confined to India any longer. The entire world is looking up to Chandrayaan, also because there are certain exclusive features associated with this. And that has been so right from the beginning of the Chandrayaan series. For example, even though we started off our space journey much after the USA and the then USSR, maybe in 1960s, when they were already on the verge of landing on the surface of moon, which of course America did in 1969. But it was Chandrayaan-1 which brought home the evidence through pictures of the presence of water on the surface of moon. And that was an eye-opener for the entire world community, because that then, led them to start asking themselves the possibilities of a human habitat on the surface of moon, the compatibility or non-compatibility or the extent of compatibility of a human life being feasible over there. Now, these were the things which were just stirring our imagination generation after generation. It's a part of fiction, part of literature, part of poetry, a part of our nursery rhymes about, imaginary people living on moon. But here it was Chandrayaan which for the first time prompted us to find answers to these questions which were hitherto part of the fiction. And this time, this mission is going to carry the same agenda further.
Partly and sir, in terms of that agenda, let me ask you a direct question, sir. Give me a direct answer. What are India's space ambitions beyond Gaganyaan, beyond Chandrayaan? What are we looking to do, sir?
So I think, that this evidently places India as a frontline nation, not only in our space capabilities, but also in the terms of our capacity of innovation and technology, which is going to be the basic benchmark and determinant for the future economy of any country. It's going to be hugely possible, and I think we owe it a lot to Prime Minister Modi for having broken many of the taboos of the past. It was he who actually threw open the gates of Sriharikota, and we had during the launching also about as many as 1,000 media persons at a place which was forbidden even from peeping inside the gate. And from the point of Gaganyaan, yes, of course, it will be placing India, reaffirming India's position in that. And if you see overall, if you mean to say what is it going to mean, that India is now being accepted increasingly with each passing day as a very important global player. B, India is looked up with seriousness, not unlike till few years ago. Everybody, rest of the world thought that, these issues like climate change and clean energy and space missions were something which were not very close to India's priorities, or maybe India didn't have the capacity or the capability or the aptitude to address these issues. Here, now we are taking the lead. If it is climate, it's Prime Minister Modi who talks about it in COP. If it is energy, Prime Minister Modi says net zero by 2070. If it is space, it is now, you would recall when Prime Minister Modi visited DC, Washington DC, it was America which put across the invitation that our astronauts should be joining them for the space laboratory missions. So I think now the rest of the world is looking up to India. And this is going to reaffirm India's position as a frontline, not only player, but maybe a frontline leader in the times to come.
Sir, do you foresee an Indian space station? And secondly, do you foresee manned or crewed Indian deep space missions?
Yes, of course. As you asked about Gaganyaan, we are already into it. It got delayed, unfortunately, because of COVID by 2 or 3 years. We had to we had to interrupt the training of the potential astronauts, which was happening at the time of lockdown. They had to be called back from the Gregory Center in Russia, in Moscow. Now it got resumed. So we are now planning first mission, unmanned mission, maybe towards the end of this year or beginning of the next year. And then the second unmanned, which will not be totally unmanned, is the robo mission. We have a Vayomitra, female robo. Because you see, you would appreciate that getting back a human being safe to the earth is as important as sending him into the space. So while we send him, we must make sure before we do that, that we are confident of having him back. That is important from all points of view. So these two initial missions will complete that exercise, will build up our confidence, and this will be a whole of government or whole of a nation approach, because you will have the naval safeguards into that, you will have coast guards into that, you will have the navy functionaries also collaborating in that, you will have the shipping ministry also, and all of them put together will put in these exercise. So we will have that Gaganyaan thing, which I think is something which is not going to which is going to get inputs which were not obtained by the earlier human missions by the other countries. Even the Chandrayaan-3, for the very reason that it's landing in a virgin area, the South Pole area. Most of the earlier missions chose the relatively more convenient locations around the equator of the moon. So that itself makes it exclusive. So we have actually dared to tread into more difficult terrain, which also gives an advantage in the sense that there is a possibility of water craters being there, and therefore experimenting with oxygen, hydrogen, all those things which are closer to human life, to clean energy, etc., etc.
Sure. Sir, the Prime Minister loves science, doesn't he? And how closely did he monitor today's events, and is he going to be with ISRO on the 23rd of August?
No, I needless to say that Prime Minister is not only monitors, he takes deep interest, he has a natural aptitude for this, and I have no hesitation to say that it's but for him, it might not have been possible to have such a quantum jump. In 3-4 years, there's a huge change of scenario. And the manner today, even as far as the Artemis agreement was concerned, when Prime Minister Modi was there in Washington, D.C., as far as space is concerned, I mean, it's something like now you are not being treated as a nation which is trying to pick up cues from them. We are now being looked up for cues for others to take benefit of. So this has happened because Prime Minister has not only been personally monitoring, but he has been very forthcoming, and he has shown the courage to take out of, to sometimes break the taboos of the past, to do away with the regulations which could be inhibiting. Because you just see, if you see the pictures of Sarabhai carrying the launcher on the carriage of his bicycle way back somewhere around 1960, you would be amazed how much passion was there in store, how much aptitude, how much talent, but there were no resources. So I think Prime Minister Modi has not only monitored us, promoted us, given us an enabling atmosphere where we could give vent to all our aptitudes which are lying dormant hitherto.
A final question to you. India signed on to the Artemis Accords. That's important because A, we want space for peaceful purposes, and B, we recognize that we can't do everything ourselves. It has to be a collaboration.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I think now the time has come when we have to, if we have to grow further, we have to grow in a synergy. The era of silos is over. The age of silos is over. It has to be a very collective approach, a very collaborative and a very integrated approach. And with the kind of stature that India is acquiring, our benchmarks have to be global, our approach has to be global, our parameters have to be global, and our performance also has to be global.
All right. Well, sir, thanks. Wonderful speaking to you. And
thank you, Vishnu. Thank you.
I'm certain 23rd, we're going to be having a big celebration by this time or a little afterwards on the 23rd. Thanks very much, sir, for speaking to me. Thanks very much.